Welcome to the Base Path Podcast, brought to you by New England Baseball Journal. I'm your host, Dan Guttenplan. Today's guest is on the cover, or his team is on the cover, of our spring edition of New England Baseball Journal. Joe Breen is the head coach at Bishop Feehan, and he's also the director of GBG, the club baseball team based out of Foxborough. Joe, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Psyched to be back.
Yeah. This is we had you on. I guess it was probably like during the travel baseball season in the summer before.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
Yeah, so now you're at Bishop Feehan, and I think the whole premise of the cover story that we did together was just trying to get a handle on, now it's so many guys, I guess, and you could tell me if you agree with this, actually. The recruitment of high school guys seems to happen so much now in the summer and the fall after the college baseball season when the guys are able to get out and recruit players. So it's kind of trying to figure out what is the motivation for the high school season, how motivated are these guys? And you have three D1 commits. One's going to UMass, one is going to Texas, and one's going to Northeastern. So tell me about how those guys are approaching the season now that they have their commitments, and the priority is probably back to high school. I would think now that the travel baseball they got what they wanted out of that.
Yeah, I think these guys, this is their school. These are their friends. These are their, classmates. They see these guys, hours and hours a day, every day of the week. These are kids in some cases. I'm at a private school, so some of these kids did grow up together, but, they've known each other at least for 2, 3, 4 years. But there's a sense of pride with trying to win with your friends and win with your teammates that you also go to school with. And I think that's obviously a little bit different than the club scene where, you're pooling kids from a bunch of different towns, a bunch of different communities together. And I think we've had a fortunate run at GBG where we've had a lot of kids in the program for a number of years. So in some cases, we have kids that have played on a club team with a kid for 6, 7, 8 years and only with their high school teammates for 2 or 3. But it's still that same sense of pride of, these are my teammates, these are my guys, and I want to go win with them.
Yeah. And you've had a lot of success at this level in the MIA before. You were at Mansfield. Mansfield, yeah. And you took teams to the Super 8. Mm-hmm. You were, I think, the coach of the year for the MIA one of those years. Mm-hmm. What motivated you to kind of get back to the high school level after stepping away for a few years?
Yeah, I never really knew I wanted to coach high school to begin with. I graduated from Stonehill College, and I immediately jumped on the coaching staff there at Stonehill, and I knew I always wanted to be in coaching. So kind of just rolled it right into college coaching, and then was working at RBI at the time and was doing more of a lot of the clinics, private lessons, that type of training. And I knew the Mansfield community really well. My college coach raised his family in Mansfield. So I knew the community. I knew a lot of the kids. And when that job opened up, I just said, maybe it's time for me to get into more of a team coaching atmosphere. It's something that I had always wanted to do. But full-time at RBI, it was, again, more of directing and camps and clinics. And so I jumped in at Mansfield and immediately fell in love with it. Being with the guys 6 days a week for 3 months, and watching them play their other sports, going to football games, going to basketball games, hockey games, just seeing these guys compete. I played 3 sports in high school, and it was kind of just them all doing what I had done in high school. And it was really fun to kind of see that atmosphere again. And then we had some great players. We had a really good run at Mansfield. But it was just that camaraderie that in club baseball you still have it, but you're not with them as often. Right. You're with them a lot more in the off season. It's kind of 2-3 days a week in the off season versus in high school, which is 0. And so I love that camaraderie aspect of it, and being able to see a group of kids grow as individuals and as a group and as a unit over a 2.5-3 month period, and I love that aspect of it.
Yeah. And you said, when we were working on this cover story, you wouldn't have just come back for any job. And obviously this is an appealing one at Bishop Feehan. Brody Bumila.
Yeah.
Bumila is, he is the first player from Massachusetts, I think, to ever commit to Texas. Mm-hmm. And then you have a Northeastern, Andrew Shute is a Northeastern commit. He is a starting pitcher as well. So you have 2 aces, and then you have a guy who's committed to UMass as well. Mm-hmm. What is your relationship with those guys, or what was it like before you came to Bishop Feehan? Obviously, they're GBG guys as well.
Yeah. I've known Andrew since he was 10 or 11, and Brody I knew him when he was 11, but didn't really get to know him more until he was about 13 or 14. And I've actually coached both of them the last 2 summers. I coached Andrew at 14, 15, and 16 years old. I coached Brody at 15 and 16. So I definitely have a rapport with those guys, and they're 2 guys who work really, really hard. I tell them this, and I tell a lot of players, like, I wish I sacrificed more in high school at their age than I did. I like to be with friends more, and I like the social aspect of things probably a little more than I should have. But these are guys that, they sacrifice a lot, and they, like, almost every decision they make is to be as good as they can possibly be as a pitcher or as a player. And that's something I, as their coach, admire in them. And so, knowing that both of them were at Bishop Feehan, and there were plenty of other kids that similar in that respect, that's kind of what drew me in, because I knew if I was going to go back, it needed to be the right situation. I didn't want to just coach high school baseball. Like, I know when I took the job at Mansfield, it wasn't, I want to coach high school baseball. It was, I want to coach Mansfield high school baseball. And it was the same thing here with Feehan. And it was just, I knew the kids we were going to have, a lot of good, really respectful kids that work really hard, that wanted something better. And I just feel like I can provide enough for them to, close that gap from where they were to where they want to be.
Yeah, and Brody's recruitment, I remember I did a story when he committed to Texas, and it was kind of like that big time, almost like college football recruitment, where they flew him in. He met the pitching coach, like greeted him coming off the plane, and then he went to Texas, I think was #1 in the country at the time in football. He went to a game, got down on the field, all that stuff. What was that like for you to go through? Obviously you're very involved with it as a director at GBG.
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I mean, a lot of it more so comes down to him and his family. I was certainly there as a sounding board, and if questions came up, they could certainly ask. Chris Welch, who is our general manager and does a lot of our college recruiting at GBG, was also involved. But, it's kind of one of those funny things where, Brody, I like to, he's a unicorn. I mean, there's just not many kids in the country like him that have the upside that he has. And so when you have a kid like that, there's not a whole lot you're going to do. He's got decisions to make up on where he wants us to go to school and what type of school he wants to go to. And his parents are obviously going to be very involved. But I mean, every school in the country wanted Brody Bamilla, and for good reason. And, I think for him, it just came down to like where he felt was the right place, where he felt most comfortable, and ultimately where he felt he could develop into the pitcher that he wanted to be down the road. And like I said, Brody takes his development very, very seriously. He makes a lot of sacrifices that 16, 17-year-old kids just do not make. It's something I admire in him. And I think for him, it was somewhere, he wanted to be somewhere that he knew he could be that way and continue to grow. And obviously, I mean, being at Texas in the SEC is a pretty special place to go. And I think after that visit, he had some other opportunities to go to some other schools that are super impressive, but it's hard to leave a school like that. And now being in the SEC, leaving a football game, things like that, it's hard to leave there going, man, this is where I see myself. And so I think that was pretty impressive for him.
Yeah, I remember talking to you after he made the commitment, and it sounds like he really wants to make a 4-year commitment, or at least 3 years, because he's probably a pro prospect eventually. But that's not all that normal these days. It seems like now everybody's making a commitment like, if it doesn't work out, I'll bounce around a little bit. You can always transfer.
Yep.
Now he was, I know he's coming back from an injury. I don't know if he's, I know you had mentioned he was going to be back on the mound, hopefully mid to late April. What's that status? I know he had an injury or a sprained ankle, I guess, during the basketball season.
Yeah, I think that the basketball injury was tough for him just because it was a lower extremity injury, especially for someone who's 6'7", 6'8". You can't just like keep throwing through that at full intensity, and that just set him back, a few weeks. But Brody worked hard and he did what he needed to do to get healthy. He did a lot of one knee throwing and things like that, just trying to keep himself active without overdoing it. And then, he's just, I think being his size, he has to pay attention to things that the normal people don't have to pay attention to. He's just got a lot going on. I mean, he's got long arms, long legs. He's a huge body. And so just like the minor things that happen to him, have the potential to be major, where if it's you or I, it's probably something we just roll right through and just keep playing or something like that. But for him, I mean, he's got tough decisions. And like I said, he has to make decisions that 99% of the rest of the population never have to even consider. And that makes it tough for him. He's only 17 years old. And right now, I mean, he's got some elbow tightness, and he's just trying to battle through that and trying to, continue to throw and work through that. And, for someone like him, he's not going to just get up there and go throw full speed until he's 100% and feels confident in it. He's got a very bright future ahead of him, and he wants to make sure he's making the right decisions now.
Yeah. And he could have, NIL money on the line. He could have, he could be a pro prospect out of high school. So you don't want to rush it too much. What about Andrew Shute? He is somebody who's eclipsed the 90 mile an hour marker as well. Northeastern, they seem to be, of all the New England schools, they recruit kind of the most in terms of New England guys. What was his recruiting process like, and what's his development been like?
Yeah, I mean, Andrew was a kid who as a sophomore got a lot of opportunity on the varsity team. He had some ups and downs, but was clearly someone that was going to be very good. He worked very hard on his body at 15 and 16 years old and gained really good quality weight, got a lot stronger. And that's where he started to make the jump from those low 80s to the mid 80s, and then eventually last summer to the high 80s and touching 90. Andrew is one of those kids who has, when you see him at his best, he's one of the top 2-3 guys around. The key with Andrew is just being really consistent. And I think a big part of it for him was making big jumps really quickly. And sometimes you need time to kind of hone that in. And a lot of guys make these big velocity jumps and they lose control.
Right.
And it just takes time, and people want immediate results all the time. It's 2025, everything's immediate, right? So for someone like Andrew, he's just continuing to work through the things that are going to make him more consistent. And, he's had kind of an up and down start to the season so far, but anyone who watches him throw and watches him pitch knows it's there. And I think just over time, continuing to get him on a mound and getting him out there competing, he'll figure it out, and he'll be, again, one of those top guys in the state for sure this season once he gets a little bit more confident.
Yeah, I remember you saying for guys who have so much pedigree and recruiting interest and everything like that, and they're pretty well accomplished during the summer and fall seasons at showcase events and things like that, they haven't made that huge mark during the high school baseball season, the MIA season. How much does that motivate those two guys in particular? Yeah,
I mean, both of them want Bishop Feehan baseball to be everything it could be, and they know that they got 2 seasons left in their careers there, to kind of put us on a different trajectory as a program. And they both take a lot of pride in that. Like they both want to win wearing Bishop Feehan green and gold. And they're going to do everything they can to do that. But that's just who they are. It wouldn't matter what uniform they're wearing. That's just who they are as kids. They work really hard. They want to be really good. And whatever team they're on, they want that team to be really good. And so, I think from a college coach's perspective, like those are guys you want in your dugout. Those are guys when you coach college baseball, like you don't want guys that are getting ready for a pro showcase, right? You want guys who are helping you trying to win your conference and go to a regional and go to a super regional. And, for obviously some of the bigger schools, go to Omaha. And those are guys you want in your dugout, as many of them as you can collect. And, those two guys, they want to win. They want to work hard to do it.
Yeah, it is an interesting balance because, I've heard Coach Glavin at Northeastern talk about he's not going to put guys on the mound who can't throw strikes consistently. And but you're also not going to recruit guys that are throwing 86 miles an hour, to play D1 college baseball because those guys will just get lit up. So they've kind of harnessed that command to get opportunities to play at the college level, and that seems to be Andrew's path right now. Is he's just kind of trying to harness that in. He's got time. But I'm sure he'd like to see it happen right now. Like you said, everybody wants to see it happen right away.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he wants to win.
Yeah.
And he knows when he is not throwing enough strikes or not competing in the strike zone as much as he would like to. He knows that that's affecting the team and the results we're getting, especially when we're playing the teams that he's pitching against, right? He's right now with Brody out. He's our Monday early week guy, which is typically the tougher team that week. And so he knows there's a lot on his shoulders, and that's a lot of pressure for any kid. But, he wants to do really well, and he knows he needs to pitch better to give us a better chance to win. Same thing with what Coach Glavin said. I mean, it's a scaled down version at the high school level, right? As you have guys, We have a guy that throws essentially our other game of the week, Jack Essay, who's also a junior, and he is, not as high on the velocity scale, but he's way higher in the strike percentage scale, but he's also more hittable, right? And so it's the same scale, it's just different numbers. And we're talking Massachusetts high school baseball, like you need to pound the zone, you need to mix pitches, and if you do that, you'll have some pretty good success.
And now how do you juggle, or how is it different, I should say, to coach high school baseball compared, in the summer, like, you're getting guys an inning here, 2 innings here, 3 innings here, and you're not really, I guess the goal isn't to win as much as it is to have the guys maximize their potential and really showcase themselves for recruiters and scouts and things like that. How is it different during the high school season? How do you approach games differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think at GBG, we've always tried to take the approach of, like, we want this to look a lot more like high school baseball. We don't want it to look like showcase baseball. We don't want it to just be rolling out a lineup and, a coach in shorts in the third base dugout and just like hanging out and, hey, guys, go ahead. Here's the baseballs, go play. We want coaches to coach their teams like they're trying to win the conference in their league, try to win a state title. And so I would say really the only difference is it's a lot more lineup management because you're trying to move guys in and out more and more throughout the games. In high school, like if you're not one of the best 9, like, you're likely not playing that day. And if you're not one of the best 12, you might not play all season. Whereas in summer ball, all those guys are on the team. They're all playing. Obviously, there's guys that are going to play more than others, but you're just trying to manage the lineup as much as possible to get them the exposure to schools that they need to. And I think it's a lot more on the pitching end is, you're naming a starting pitcher and then the course of the game is going to dictate who comes in or if anyone comes in after that. Whereas in summer ball, you're kind of lining up 3 guys, maybe 4 guys in some instances, and they're all going to pitch in that one game. They're all only going to throw 30 to 45 pitches and you're going to bring them back 3 days later. So they're probably pitching more frequently, lower pitch counts, so that they're seeing a little bit more.
I remember talking to coaches of guys who were pro prospects coming out of high school, like the Tyler Beatties and guys like that. And the coaches said it was pretty crazy, but this isn't a draft year for Brody, so maybe it's not quite as crazy yet. Are there people reaching out to you like, hey, when can I come out and see him? When's he going to be back on the mound? What has it been like to be his high school baseball coach this season?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the questions. And it's mostly right now, it's not as much pro scouts or anything like that. It's more like the newspapers. It's more that type. And honestly, it's more just people locally that hear about him. They've heard this big kid's a big time pitcher and they just want to come see it. They want to come see what that is. So it's been a lot more of that versus like the pro scouts and Texas or anything like that. I think everybody at this point just wants him to be healthy and go out there and be able to compete in whatever capacity he can. And so it's definitely been a lot more on the media side than it is like the pro scout side.
Yeah, he had a pretty fast trajectory. We did a story on that. I remember, I think he played JV baseball like most of his freshman year and then got called up maybe at the end of the season of the varsity. And then the velocity just kind of jumped. What do you attribute that to? Was there something you guys did at GBG that really helped him out?
Yeah, I mean, he's a kid who's, I mean, like I said, I've known him since he was 11, and at 11, he was the tallest kid on the field and wiry and long, but had no idea where the ball was going, and, sometimes would just trip over his own 2 feet, right? And so, as baseball guys, like, that body can project to be something really special if everything gets harnessed. A lot of guys don't make the jump. They don't close the gap, whereas Brody, you saw him at 14 where, there wasn't a whole lot to him. And then at 15, he started gaining some weight, spent a lot more time focusing on what's going in his body nutritionally, hitting the weights, those types of things. And with that, he started to gain a lot more functional strength, a lot more balance. So things started to kind of click a little bit. So now he's more in the strike zone. He always threw fairly hard, but now it was hard and more consistently in the strike zone. And then he hit another growth spurt, and it was like from, the fall of his 15-year-old year, like he had grown 3 or 4 inches, put on 15 to 20 pounds, and that's where those numbers started clicking in more like the 87s, 88s, and then it just didn't stop from there. And, and then last winter it was like it all just kind of came in, and it was, 93 in February, and he was 6'6" and had gained, I think at that point he'd gained like 50 pounds. because he had a lot of room to put it somewhere. So, so it all kind of clicked from there. But yeah, I think it was just like a lot of the functional strength and just gaining good weight. And like I said, I mean, the kid pays attention to everything he does in a way of making sure his arm is prepped, and he's meticulous with what he does every day. And so I think just the culmination of all of that, and next thing you know, you got a 6'6" guy throwing 93.
Yeah. What do you recommend? Because you said, he was tripping over his own feet when he was 11. He seems like a guy who probably really benefited from playing basketball in the winter and just improving his athleticism. And you said you were a 3-sport guy. You like guys doing the 3 sports. But there are guys, I would imagine, that come to GBG and it just hasn't worked out in any other sports. And they're like, hey, I want to play baseball. I want to focus on baseball year round. Mm-hmm. How do you, what type of advice do you give guys who are like, hey, here's kind of my background. What do you think I should do?
Yeah, I mean, I think for guys, a lot of guys are now making the decision. I think sometimes it's less about like, I just want to focus on baseball. It's, they're the backup this for the varsity team as a junior. They're spending their winter probably losing weight. They're not hitting the weights as often, and they're seeing other guys doing that and surpassing them physically. And that's a lot of times where guys make the decision to stop playing a sport, is because they're not that good at it.
Yeah.
Or compared to their peers at their school. They might be at a school where the basketball team is really, really good, and they're good, but it's not their first sport. They don't put as much time into it, and so they start to kind of fade off, and then they just go solely the baseball route. Like you said, I mean, guys like Brody, and there's other guys too. It's not just the athleticism piece, but it's the compete piece. I mean, that's something that, coaching the years in Mansfield, one of the things I loved about coaching in Mansfield was a lot of kids played football. A lot of kids played basketball. Those were 2 big-time perennial state champion type programs, was Mansfield basketball, Mansfield football. And I was getting those guys after 2 sports. I was getting them in the spring, and they knew how to compete. I mean, maybe their swing wasn't right on, or their arm wasn't in perfect shape at that point. But if we lost, like, it was going to be a silent bus ride home.
Right.
And so I think that's a big factor that goes underlooked, is just the level of competitiveness from multi-sport guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And now looking into your season, I know that yesterday you had a loss to St. Mary's. Who are the teams to beat? I guess, St. Mary's is probably historically the team to beat in that conference, at least over the last couple of years. Who do you kind of have circled on the schedule?
I mean, right now it's one game at a time for us. I mean, we're 3-2 through 5 games. I mean, as I've told you, I mean, we have a team that has a lot of potential, and we have to find a way to maximize it. And we're trying to gel as a group right now. We're trying to figure out what our identity is as a team. We got a great group of seniors. It's 8-9 guys total, but they're impact guys one way or the other, whether they're on their field or not. And then we have a massive junior class who we're trying to figure out who can do what. And so right now we're still in like that gelling process of figuring out who we are. But when it comes to circling games in the schedule, I know it may sound cliche, but it's just like whoever's next on the schedule is circled.
Yeah.
We're not one of those teams right now that can say, oh, well, we know we can, show up and beat that team, we can't show up and beat anybody right now. And so that's our mentality. We put a lot of effort into building our schedule out this year and playing as many of the best teams we could possibly play. We have Durfee on Thursday. They're well coached. Mike Martin's a good coach, and he's got that program going in a good direction. They had a pretty good run in the tournament last year. And then we follow it up with Taunton the following week, Wellesley, who's another really good team, Attleboro, who's having a good season so far. So there's really no break in our schedule, and that's what we like. We know we have to show up and play well to win. And for us right now as a new coaching staff, we find out a lot more about our team when we play those types of teams than when you play teams that aren't as competitive. And so it's just kind of what we're looking forward to, is just learning a little bit more about ourselves each game we play, and playing the best competition we can play.
Nice. Well, Netting Professionals is proud to be the official netting partner of the Cape Cod League and the New England Collegiate Baseball League. Netting Professionals is in the sports business of improving athletic programs one facility at a time. Netting Professionals designs, fabricates, and installs custom netting, wall padding, windscreen, batting practice equipment, and much more for high schools, colleges, commercial facilities, and stadiums throughout the United States, while providing high-quality products and great service to numerous baseball programs throughout the New England area. To learn more and to speak to a Netting Professionals representative today, Visit them at nettingpros.com. Remember, when it comes to netting, it's netting professionals. Get the pro treatment and design your very own custom Rawlings glove, just like your favorite big league stars. Choose from countless patterns, web types, lace colors, and more to showcase your unique personal style. Start with a pro design and change it up with your team colors, or build yours completely from scratch with your name, number, and state flag. Visit Rawlings.com to design your custom glove today.
Are you serious about playing your sport in college? Do you need a flexible education that allows you to maintain your practice and competition schedules while also preparing you to succeed at the next level? You should check out the University of Nebraska High School. UNHS is accredited and offers more than 100 online courses, including NCAA-approved courses to protect your academic eligibility. Students could earn a UNHS diploma or take a single course for transfer credit. Courses are college prep, self-paced, and available 24/7, 365. Enroll anytime and take up to a year to complete a course. Visit highschool.nebraska.edu today.
Well, do you have time to hang in for our 3 Up, 3 Down segment?
Yeah, sure. Let's give it a roll.
All right. Let me introduce you to our producer, David Yaz.
Well, thank you, Dan. Let's do some 3 Up, 3 Down. Let's do it right now.
All right.
3 Up, 3 Down.
It's the segment where we offer up 3 questions to both of our panelists here who are completely unprepared for these. So, well, good luck, guys. That's all I can say. Number 1. We talk a lot about no-hitters and our memories of no-hitters, maybe even attending them. I'd like you to recount your most memorable near no-hitter, whether you were part of it, whether you observed it. There are plenty of examples where someone makes it to the 9th or whatever, and there's some tragic circumstance where they lose the no-hitter. So, Coach, we'll let you go first. Any memories of what was almost a no-hitter?
Yeah, I got one. I don't watch MLB, so it's not going to be an MLB one. It's a former Mansfield guy. He actually had a perfect game, and the other team batted out of order, which collected an out that got him 1 out closer. So it was 6 2/3, and then he gave up the hit after 6 2/3.
Ooh.
Just after the other team batted out of order to get him 1 out within 1 out of the no hitter. So
wow.
Yep.
So it's almost like he got the gift and then it cursed him.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Bummer.
Yeah.
Dan, how about you?
I went to, I used to write for the Newburyport Daily News in Newburyport, Massachusetts, and there was a game. Both teams, it was Amesbury versus Newburyport. They both had their aces on the mound, and both guys pitched no hitters for 7 innings. And so at that point, I was like, are these coaches going to leave their pitchers in? I don't know if they had as many pitch count rules back then or what the deal was, but they both left their pitchers on. These coaches had like a heated rivalry, and they ended up, one of them gave up a home run in the 8th inning and blew his no-hitter. The other guy didn't pitch a no-hitter either. I think he gave up a hit in the 8th, but he got it ended up being a 1-0 game with both guys went no-hitters through 7 innings. So that was a memorable one. It was one of the first baseball games I covered.
You probably noticed I spaced out. I looked away for a moment there. Sorry, Dan. What was the ultimate result? What happened in the 8th?
1-0 win. One of the guys blew his no-hitter by giving up a home run, and then the other guy finished out the game, but did not end up with a no-hitter either.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
People must have been on the edge of their seat.
Yeah.
It's a real bummer losing a no-hitter to a home run because you just lost the shutout.
Oh,
too,
yeah.
Right? I mean, come on.
Yep.
My most memorable one, you guys didn't ask, but I was at Fenway once and in the 90s, and of all people, Danny Darwin for the Red Sox took a no-hitter into the 8th with, I think there were 2 outs in the 8th, and someone hit a fly ball to center. It was he hit it well, and our center fielder went back and leapt, and it went off the top of his glove. Unfortunately, our center fielder was Billy Hatcher at the time, who was short.
Oof.
And lost the no-hitter there.
Yeah.
All right, question number 2 for 3 Up, 3 Down. What's the most amazing defensive play you've ever seen in person? Or if you want to say you witnessed it on TV or whatever. But Dan, why don't you take that one first?
Okay. I'm trying to think what it would be. Remember was it Alex Gonzalez the Red Sox had at shortstop?
Yeah.
That guy was a great defensive shortstop. And I definitely saw a few great plays of him, like going into the third base hole. throwing across the diamond and getting guys. So I would say, he definitely was somebody that I loved watching play shortstop, and he made a lot of great plays when I was in attendance.
Yeah. I remember that distinctly, and I've always said he's the best defensive shortstop I've ever seen because he would do he wasn't built like a natural shortstops are usually kind of either spindly or they're big and rangy.
Yeah.
And he was kind of short and stocky, wasn't he? But there'd be a ground ball in the hole and you go, well, that's a base hit. There's no way. The only way he could do it is if he hits this perfect angle and this perfect throw, and he would do it.
He'd make it look easy too.
Exactly. Yeah. I wish we had held on to him.
Yeah.
Coach, your thoughts?
Mark Burley, I think it was a bunt or like a swinging bunt when he went towards the first base side and flipped it between his legs to get the out of first base. Yeah. They always say pitchers aren't athletes, but he was there.
That's a good one. Were you a fan of Burley generally, or?
I like any pitcher who can make a play off the mound. Yeah.
Who does Mike Maddox properly get credit for being the best fielding pitcher? You think, or
Greg Maddox?
Greg Maddox. I went with the wrong brother, just like the Red Sox did.
He might. Yeah, I'd say he's probably up there.
Yeah. All right. Final question. Baseball is a great sport for saying, oh my God, I've never seen that before. I've been watching baseball for 50 years and I've never seen that before. Can you think of an example of when the last time that happened in recent memory, or any time, really? Who would like to take that one first? Someone got it?
I'll go. Yeah,
okay,
I mean,
go ahead, Coach.
I always think of like the Griffey running up the wall in the outfield after making the catch. And then pretty much anything Bo Jackson did was something that nobody else ever did.
I think Bo Jackson did that as well.
Yes.
Ken Griffey Jr. was the one player that I somehow, even if he was playing against the Red Sox and he was like tracking down a fly ball, I would kind of root for him because it was just so hard not to like him. Just so, I mean, the cliche is poetry in motion, like just balletic, right? Does he get the credit he deserves for his career?
Griffey?
Yeah.
I think with my generation, yes. But I think slightly after that, no, because I think a lot of people remember him for his Cincinnati Reds years, and those were not his best. A lot of injuries, but yeah, I mean the Mariners years. I mean, if you grew up, I'm 41, so when you grew up when I grew up, I mean he was the man.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm older, so I definitely remember his glory years. He did have the best comment ever from an on-deck circle, and it was as follows: "Come on, Dad." he batted behind his dad, and that was with the Reds, right? Yeah. Yeah, good one, very good one, Dan.
Barry Bonds definitely did things I'd never seen before. Like he would go an entire game and see one strike and end up hitting it in McCovey Cove. Like he just could not even like pitch around the strike zone with him. You just have to walk him with the bases loaded. There was a ton of that I had never seen before. I just got an email from somebody, and I can't remember the exact situation, so I'm going to blow it. But I think it was like a batter. There was a runner on first base. There was a ground ball in between first and second. It hit the runner, and so it was not considered a force out at second base. It was considered a single, and the guy lost his no-hitter, and I didn't realize that rule.
Did that just happen?
Yeah, it just happened like a week ago.
That has to be the most tragic way to lose a no-hitter, and it almost shouldn't count.
Yeah, I was like, why isn't that a force out?
But I've always known, I was always the kid who knew how to keep score, and so I did know that rule. It's one of the weirdest rules.
Yeah.
Why the batter gets a hit? Like, couldn't we just give him a non-at-bat, like with a base on balls? He didn't earn that hit. He just hit his teammate.
There's a lot of rules that don't make sense.
Yeah, it just seems like it should be a force out. The guy's going to second, and he didn't make it there.
Yeah. The Barry Bonds answer is good as well. I was just, for some reason, looking up recently the single season leaders for walks for a hitter, right? Mm-hmm. And in 2004, Barry Bonds had 232. Wait, hold on. Come on, research department. Oh, I can't see this because I'm colorblind. It's in a weird color. Barry Bonds in 2004 season, 232 walks. Number 2 on the list is Barry Bonds, 2000 2 with 198 walks. Number 3 on the list is Barry Bonds in 2001 with 177. Then you got to go down to number 4, Babe Ruth, 170 in 1923. 232 walks in one season because no one would throw him a strike.
No.
Why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you? No.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic job on 3 Up, 3 Down. I'll conclude with one bonus trivia question that it's sort of a riddle. I heard it the other day. This player has broken up 81 no-hitters, all with home runs.
Wow.
This player has broken, over the course of his career, he broke up 81 no-hitters with a home run. Who is he?
Ricky Henderson.
That's right. Very good.
Wow,
Yeah.
nice.
It's a trick question. Yeah, I mean, he had 81
Bunch of leadoff guys.
leadoff home runs.
Yeah.
You know, maybe he broke up a different no-hitter with a home run. We don't even know about that one. Anyway, terrific job on 3 Up, 3 Down. And back to you, Dan, to wrap things up.
All right. Thanks to Joe Breen for joining us on the Base Path Podcast. Pick up the latest edition of the spring edition of New England Baseball Journal with Joe and the Bishop Feehan baseball team as the cover story. Rate, review, subscribe to the Base Path Podcast on your preferred platform. Thanks to our producer, David Yaz. The Base Path Podcast is a Siemens Media production.